Hi, everyone. This is Hal Krosman with Screenwriting U. And today we're going to be talking about the family values of succession. Now, this isn't a small thing. And I'll be addressing it very differently than I think most people would. We've actually analyzed Succession 4 times now. And I'll tell you the reason why is because this show is so deep. It is so well written. My hat's off to the writers on this one. They have all done an incredible job. And there is so much to learn. When I said we've analyzed it 4 times, each time we've analyzed it from a completely different perspective. Each time, most of the times we've presented between 5 to 10 different skill sets that they're using. Some of which are surprising, some of which you have to watch the episode 2 or 3 times to see. And today we're looking at another skill set that I think you're really going to love and you'll be able to apply to your own writing. So let's jump into this so that you can see. Here's the overview of what we're going to do today. We're going to start with the 5-star model, which comes from the Bingeworthy program. The reason I'm starting you with this is because if this is missing from your writing and you're trying to get into one of the major streamers, I'd say you've given yourself such a long shot, it's almost impossible. Build this in a really strong way, and they're going to look at you as one of those up-and-coming writers that they need to work with. Second, we'll talk about what I'm calling the 3 rules of succession. And really, these are 3 rules that just come from 2 episodes, but I think they're present in most of the episodes. So it's an interesting thing when you see it from this perspective. We'll talk a little bit about their family values. Really, their family values show up all the way through this. Everything we're going to talk about today really are their family values. And then finally, we'll talk about the upcoming Bingeworthy TV program. For any of you who really do want to write at a professional level and have something that is attractive to the streamers. So this is, in my opinion, one of the most important skill sets to master if you want to become a pro. So let's jump into this. 2 alerts first. The first one is there's a trigger alert in this particular one. We're going to be discussing a funeral episode, and we're going to discuss Logan's death. I'm not going to give you any gruesome details or anything like that, but for anyone who just having that discussion causes you any kind of problems, what I would say is, watch our other programs. Show up next Friday or the Friday after for our other programs. I want you to be able to have as much success as you can, but at the same time, I don't want to put you in any kind of, emotional trauma or any of that. Second is a spoiler alert. For the people who haven't seen or watched season 4 yet, I will be giving spoilers. Now, here's the advantage to it. The disadvantage is, well, you won't have that moment of surprise, right? I'm going to tell you something that's going to happen. The advantage is you will know how it's set up, how it's designed, what skills are being used. And so when you watch it, you will get a much deeper experience than the audience does, the normal audience. So it's a trade-off. You don't get the surprise, because I'm telling you, but you get the, oh my God, I see how they pieced that together to cause that one moment. So if, on this one, I'd say make the decision to stay with me and learn this, because it is worth learning. So let's talk about this 5-star model. This is the one that it's kind of like the basis for how you create the kind of TV that people become obsessed with, that people binge watch, and that studios and streamers say, oh my God, this is an incredible writer, right? This came from analyzing the top 1% of the shows on the streamers and looking at what did they do differently than the bottom 50%. So what we're doing is we're emulating what they need, what's important to the streamers, what makes them successful, and creating an incredibly well-written show. So here's our model. First, you want to come in with a big picture hook. And by the way, I'm going to walk you through some of these having to do with season 4. So you'll see them, but you want to come in with a big picture hook. This usually means what's the high concept of the show, right? What's the big idea that people are going to get excited about watching? Then you want to make sure that you have intriguing characters. Now, this is different than emotional characters. It's different than good characters, absolutely. It is different than characters that I really like, kind of thing. Likable characters. Intrigue means there's something under the surface that the audience must figure out, must understand. There's something going on that keeps us wondering about the other parts that we're not seeing, right? Is this person scheming? Are they lying? Is there some kind of major conspiracy happening here? If you've got a character that in and of themselves is intriguing, that means they are bringing that to the table on a regular basis. Then empathy distress. And this show has so much of this. We essentially have characters that most people have said in the early stages they did not like them. Right. This was one of the complaints in the very beginning of this show. They put it on the air and people were saying, I watched 1 or 2 episodes and I don't like a single character there. But what they did was they did 2 things. They made those characters intriguing. So we kept coming back and going, wow, what are they going to do next? And then they created deep empathy for them by putting them in distressful situations. This is an incredibly important and valuable tool for you. All you got to do is put your character in a distressful situation where the audience goes, I wouldn't want that to happen to me. And now we feel some level of empathy for them. The more distress, the more empathy we feel, right? And what this does is it gives us a much, much deeper experience of the character than, say, likability. Likability was the thing everybody was going for in the 1990s, early 2000s. But once we got past that, especially once we got to the streamers, they embraced this. They started going for creating empathy so that we are worried about those characters. And because of that, we're attached to them. And then layers/open loops. Basically, what this is about is creating a situation, layers create a situation where we discover something new about the character we hadn't known. And it's not just exposition. It is, we are discovering something new about this character that we're surprised about, right? That we're like, oh my God, they're doing that. What does that mean, right? So when you actually do a really good layer, 2 things happen. First one is, if you're revealing the layer for the first time, your audience gets that surprise moment, and then they go back and reevaluate the character. Like, let's say, and this didn't happen, by the way, but let's say we find out that one of these characters, one of the 3 kids, is someone who is adopted, was never part of the family, and because of that is not going to get an inheritance, right? So we find that out in that one moment, and because of that, we go back and we reevaluate their relationship with Logan. Maybe that's why Logan treated them that way. Maybe that's why he put them through more difficult times, and just finding out that one piece of information, that layer beneath the surface, causes us to rethink things. Now, open loops means we are creating questions about the future. And don't worry, if you want to master all of this, just come and join us for the class, and you will become a total master at this. But open loops means we're creating questions about the future of the series so that the audience has to come back to find those answers. And then this one, inviting obsession. This is the job. I know when you say things like this, like if somebody says, "Oh, what do I want from the audience of my show?" And another person says, "I want them to be completely obsessed," right? That if we backed up 10, 15 years ago, people would say, "Oh, that's crazy. You've got an issue." But now it's the norm. That's what they're trying to do. They're trying to create that experience where people are so obsessed that they will continue watching even after they're tired, even after they've stayed up too late. They know that tomorrow they're going to suffer at work, but they're still going to watch the next episode because we've built in that obsession. Now, we may talk about that a little bit as we go, but let's just jump into this. So we'll walk through at least a few of these. From a big picture hook perspective, the series itself has a bunch of big picture hooks, but I'm just going to point to really 2 episodes in season 4. We'll point to episode 3, the episode where Logan died, and then we'll point to episode 9 where the funeral happens. So in this case, this funeral is kind of worth attending just because it's filled with the most powerful and wealthy people, really, on the planet. The president-elect shows up at this funeral and sits through the whole funeral. The people who are their competition are there. People who are vying to buy their company are there. There's so many powerful and wealthy people in that audience, and it's the Roy family doing their thing, right? They're using this both to take care of their father or take care of their relationship or their feelings for their father, but they're also using this as a networking event. So it's different, and we'll talk about a few of those in a moment. But the other part that I think is kind of a big hook is, and this is a big hook for most of the series, it's an intriguing question that was basically asked by Logan Roy, the dad, early on. Which of these kids are going to cement their position as CEO by outplaying the others? He has set up a game, right? And his game is one of them's going to win the CEO position. At different times, he actually tells each one of them that they've got it, and then he takes it away from them. So they know they've got to do something. They've got to outplay the others. In order for them to win one of the most powerful positions in the world, they've got to play. They can't just sit on the sidelines. So we're watching this world. This is a big picture hook where they're constantly in the midst of that game. Number 2, intriguing character. And I'm going to put a whole bunch of words up on the screen here, but stay with me. Roman. Roman has this game he plays. He alternates back and forth between offending people and trying to present himself as a leader. He keeps trying to stay in the game. I thought early in the series, I thought he was just going to opt out and just tell everybody to go to hell. But no, he keeps offending them, and then he keeps asking them for their support. And nobody believes that second part. Nobody sees him as a potential leader. His father manipulated him, used him, acted as if he was going to make Roman a leader, but continually said, there's no way, he's too immature, and can't stop doing what he's doing. Kendall is entitled. He is convinced he deserves the CEO position because he's the oldest, but he's got this deep weakness in his soul, essentially. And every time there's really a chance for him to succeed, somewhere along the way that weakness comes out, and it shows up in him worrying about things he shouldn't worry about. It shows up in him sometimes not being able to make decisions, but it also shows up in the times where he overdoes it and acts like a total bully when it's not necessary. However, as soon as he finds out at the funeral that Shiv is maneuvering for the CEO position, he suddenly becomes his father. He starts making moves. So, and he's done this. There's been a couple of times in the series where he's done this. So it's the other part of him. Now, Shiv, on the other hand, I would say she's the one who learned the most from her father. So she is covertly conspiring to sell the company to Madsson in exchange for her being the CEO. And she seems to be able to hold it together in the midst of this, which is like pretty incredible. And, because there's a lot of pressure, there's a lot of confusion, there's a lot of things going on, and yet she maintains her course. Now, the other problem, of course, is she's lying to both of her brothers throughout that whole thing, and that doesn't seem to bother her at all. Madsson himself, this guy, I just say he's a high-tech slimy bastard. He has been maneuvering, he's been negotiating, renegotiating, making deals, sometimes backing out of them, making all kinds of demands along the way to make sure that he gets the upper hand, including exaggerating his subscriber base, which means the entire deal is based on fraud. And then he has this really weird, disturbing relationship where he's openly harassing the top woman at his company and pretending like that's okay. So, and then there's Greg, and I put Greg in here, and Tom could go along with this, but Greg is, he's this nephew who showed up in the beginning with nothing. He worms his way in. He keeps continually telling people that, that he is something, he's valuable, and hey, it's us, when it's valuable for him to say that kind of thing. But his main thing is he is constantly offering himself as, somebody that's valuable, somebody that's important for power positions, when he has no skills or understanding of how to do those positions, right? He doesn't seem to get at all that he's there for a purpose other than advancement. So he's an interesting character to watch for that reason. And we'll come back to that. Now, empathy distress. We talked about this. Let me give you a few of these so you can see, but here's the big thing. This show is built entirely on tragedies. Like, it's just really pretty much every episode has some kind of tragedy going on. We focus more on the tragedies than we do on anything else, I'd say, other than the relationships and who the characters are. But it is built on tragedies, and that is a really interesting way to write a show. So let's go with some of these. This is the empathy distress. And really, again, what this is about is you create distress and it automatically causes the audience to experience empathy. So distress, Roman doing the eulogy, right? He's practiced this. He has his notes. in the morning when he was practicing it, he felt completely cocky. He knew what he was doing. He has this down, right? But when he gets up there, that's the moment that this morning thing hits him, and he melts down, sobbing, begging for them to take his father out of the casket. Right? Now, if you didn't feel anything for Roman before that, that might be a moment where you feel for him, right? It's like, wow, this, he may be the only one of the kids that truly, truly loved his father. So it's an interesting thing. But it shifts things, and it shifts things in a bunch of ways. First, he's going through distress. Second, he also just lost that powerful moment. He was the one who volunteered to do the eulogy. He thought he was going to be the only one up there. And he was going to do the right eulogy. He was going to come off as a leader, and he was going to get that CEO position. He called himself Roman the Showman. And then this was the show he put on, which may have ended his future. Here's another version. Kendall, he's on the way to this, this funeral, and his ex-wife wants to leave town with their kids for their safety. Now, I'm on her side on that. I think, there's riots going on. There's all kinds of things happening. She's a target, and she wants to take her kids to a place of safety. But for Kendall, it's the day of his father's funeral. He is deeply affected by this. And once again, he's in this state of weakness, and he's making a bad decision by demanding that she stay there. Really. The other thing, he's on his way walking to the funeral, and his assistant lets him know at that point that she wants to work somewhere else. Now, she's not doing something bad to him. She actually put it in his calendar for next week, but he asked her what the meeting is that they're going to do next week. And that's when he finds out. And he basically demands that she tell him. Then he says, okay, that's totally okay. And then he flips out. So he gets one more piece of bad news as he's walking into the church. And it's like he's had 3 pieces of bad news in a row. He's not dealing with this whole thing well. We may feel distress for him in that situation. And then Shiv. Now, we have to back up for this, but Shiv had her husband betray her in the season finale of season 3. And basically, if things would have gone, if Logan Roy would have stayed alive, Shiv may have lost her share of the company because of that, or lost a major part of what she wanted out of that. She basically was getting, nothing. They went in and tried to make the deal with the father. The father wouldn't consider it. He had decided to sell the whole thing and give them as little as he possibly could. And so they tried to take control and say they were withholding their votes. But he had already considered that because her husband had snitched her off. Her husband had, in order to get some power on his own, he had gone in and told Logan, and Logan was ahead of him. Logan, he said it to him, "I've got you beat," and just took him down in a really bad way, leaving Shiv sitting there crying, watching her husband and Logan pat him on the shoulder for the help. So she knows her husband betrayed her. She's been living with that ever since. Their relationship has never been the same. So that's distressful, right? It even if you don't like her, it has you feel something. And then there's layers and open loops. And let me just kind of point out a few of these. And these are what shows up right in the midst of these final episodes. Excuse me. Shiv's been courting Matsson, but she hasn't told her brothers. Her brothers think that she's on their side. And as they're going through their steps, they're telling her the strategy that they're using, and she's reporting it to Matsson. So she has become an informant for Matsson, and this is something that's going on under the surface. We see her acting one way in front of her brothers. She's on their side. We see her doing a completely different thing with Matsson as she step by step tries to put together her deal with Matsson. So this is her competing against them. It's a layer beneath the surface, right? Here's another one. And this is the one we talked about just a moment ago, but Roman seems to be completely mourn-proof. Everybody else is mourning. Roman even addresses it. He even says, you guys can cry your eyes out. I'm fine. And he really is. It's like it hasn't hit him. He has no idea. He's going to get up and do this speech that makes him look good. That's all he cares about. He's excited to do this eulogy. And then he breaks down in front of the audience, but not in a small way. And if you watch it, he gets to the point of sobbing, demanding that his father be taken out of the coffin. He's lost control in front of all of these incredibly powerful people. So really a difficult spot to be in. Now, both of those are layers, right? He actually has that layer going on under the surface. He just doesn't know it. He was the one who probably was most emotionally connected to his father. So hang on just a moment. Sorry that I'm still having problems with my throat, but let's keep going. And then an open loop here. Will Shiv and Matsson make the deal and take control of the organization? And this is a really important open loop. If they make this deal, Matsson has made an agreement that he's going to make her CEO, which now takes out both of her brothers. So that's important. It puts her in control of the company. That's important. It has Matsson owning the company, which is now going to change all kinds of things. There's been conversation about him breaking it up and selling it and things like that. It puts him in a much, much more powerful position. And I'd say he's a pretty slimy guy. So I don't know what that would do. Right? But it creates all these questions about the future. First, is this going to happen? And even if they make the deal, will it actually go through? Will there be regulations put in place that keep it from happening or any of that? Will Shiv be able to hold on to the CEO position? There's a whole bunch of questions. And what are the brothers going to do? Right? So these are things that have set up the need to find out what's coming in the future. Now, let's go. So here's what open loops do. And in this show, this is another open loop. There's this constant feeling that you're watching this train wreck, right? That over and over and over, something terrible is going to happen at any moment. And it does, by the way. It's just usually not the thing we think is going to happen. So there's also other forms of unpredictability. So I wanted to point out this one because it creates another open loop. When Roman blows it, Kendall steps to the lectern. He fumbles around with Roman's notes, and he says a couple of things in the beginning, and then he finally puts the notes away. He finds his voice and he speaks about the importance of taking action and money. Now, this wouldn't be a normal thing you'd talk about at a funeral. But with this audience, he's talking directly to this audience, and he's talking to them about who they are while talking about who his father is. And in the end of his eulogy, essentially, he's the only one to get applause. And he gets actually a lot of applause for a funeral. But what they're applauding is he spoke to them about their values. So it's like at that moment, he's starting to have this experience of, hey, he can lead here. And the applause when he sits down, this is shifting who he is and what he believes is possible. He got that powerful audience to respect him. So that creates this open loop. What's going to happen with that, right? Does this put Kendall back in the game? Is it possible that he could become CEO now? So here are some of the open loops. Who will become the new CEO? That's what we're wondering about. Will the president work with them? Will the Madsson deal happen? And if so, does he honor his agreement to put Shiv in as CEO? And there's one other. The three of them, the three siblings here, called the election for one of the candidates, but the votes still haven't all been tabulated. So will that come back to bite them in the ass? And what happens when that comes back? Right? So all of these are making us wonder about the future and how this whole thing's going to go together. Now, let me say one more thing so you know. This next episode coming out, if I'm correct, is the season finale and the actual end of Succession. They're saying that they're not going to do another season. So that means somehow they're going to bring all of this together in that episode. And we're going to get a chance to, either walk out of it going, okay, now I understand, or we're going to walk out of it going, what the hell? So I can't wait to see what they do. All right, let's go on. Now let's talk about some rules. I'm going to say there's 3 rules that are showing up in these episodes, and I'm talking about really pretty much most of season 4. These rules are showing up. So I don't know. I'm not saying that if you went to the writers who are sitting in the writer's room or the showrunner, I haven't talked with them. So, and I've interviewed a lot of showrunners before. I just haven't talked with them. I don't know that they would say that this rule exists, but based on what I'm seeing, I'd say it's in one form or another, it actually exists. And it's a way to think about your writing that's useful. So let's talk about this one. This one I'm calling the rule of contrast. And basically what it is every time a good thing is happening, an opposite reaction or action happens at the same time, right? So you'll see this. Let me just give you a whole bunch of them here. But it's all over the place in this show. Every time something good happens for somebody, almost immediately what follows is something bad. Remember I said, this is a show of tragedies. Powerful people who are going from tragedy to tragedy to tragedy. So we start with this setup. Connor's wedding. This is episode 3 of season 4. Connor's wedding. It's a celebration. It's on a ship. This is Connor and his new wife-to-be are so excited. They want to make a big splash. Connor didn't win the presidency. In fact, he only got 1% of the vote. And so this is like a moment where he wants everybody to feel good about him. And then the kids get a call that his father has died. So, and everybody on that ship is there either directly or indirectly because of Logan Roy. They're either there to see him, they're there to make a deal with him, they're in the midst of a deal with him, right? Every single one of them is there because of that. And now this whole thing has happened. Plus, if you think about it, a death at a wedding, wow, that's just insane amounts of contrast, and a really, truly terrible experience. By the way, and I'm sorry to give the spoiler, but it is just worth talking about. The end of this, and this shows the degree to which every person is there for Logan. The end of it is they do get married, but they get married in front of 200 empty chairs with 5 or 6 people sitting in the audience, maybe their closest friends. So they went from having this, wow, amazing wedding on a ship, everybody's excited, it's going to be their big day, to the absolute opposite of that. Here's another one. We already talked about this one. Roman's excited about doing the eulogy, right? That's the setup. That's the good thing that's going on. He's going to look like a leader that he's always wanted to be known as. But as he starts to speak, grief incapacitates him. And so, again, it's contrast. Here's this setup. Tom and Shiv break up. And if you watched this episode, it's a serious episode, but somewhere in that period of time, she finds out that she's pregnant. Now, by the way, the argument that I'm talking about, she may have already known that she was pregnant, but they're having the worst argument of their life, and she's pregnant. It's like, it's the opposite again, and it's something that they should be celebrating, and yet they are torturing each other. And then another one, the Swede, Mattsson, gives them the ultimate share price, but Kendall, in what I would say is a moment of weakness, becomes obsessed with killing the deal. And this is, listen, I just listed 4 of these. I'm going to say I saw 20 or more just in the 2 episodes I was looking at. And I've watched the entire season up until this point, and they're all over the place. I've been mentioning them to Cheryl almost every episode that we watch. It's like, oh my God, they just did it again, and it's still unexpected. It still gets me. So the writing is so good. And by the way, and this is basically another statement of the rule: any success causes an automatic tragedy, and then they have to deal with that. So here's the next rule, the rule of living on the edge. Back when I was in high school, I remember people talking about this thing about living on the edge, and it sounded like this exciting adventure. And sometimes it is, right? But the way these guys do it, not so fun. So in this world, everything is risky. Any misstep could destroy you. So them living on the edge, first creates a massive amount of stress for them, puts them in all kinds of difficult situations, but it also sets up the possibility for a disaster at any moment. So first part of their living on the edge is, this is high stakes, right? It's one of the top media organizations. Billions of dollars are flowing in and out. You make even a small mistake, a 2 or 3% mistake, and it could go bankrupt. Then there's power at stake. Who has the power? Who has lost the power? And that is, like, if you look at the relationship between Logan and his 3 kids here, the 4th kid, by the way, the oldest one, who run for president, Connor, he lost the power a long time ago. He was hoping that he'd do this big run for president thing and somehow get back into his dad's good graces, and he once again completely blew it. But there's constantly, we are looking at who does have the power, who doesn't in the midst of this. It's Logan versus the kids. They're, he at one point or another, he is either against one or all 3. He's playing them against each other, the kids versus each other, which is like disturbing competition where they never tell each other the truth because they think it's going to be used against them. And then it's control of the deal. This is Logan versus Matsson. Then it becomes Shiv. Can't tell if it's versus Matsson or working Matsson or giving in to Matsson. Then it's about the political power. Who's won or lost from a political perspective? And I'm not talking about the president winning. Yes, that was something that was going on. And they went through a whole episode where essentially the three of them gave that president his presidency. So that happened, and they had to argue about it for an entire episode to get to that point, right? But it's also about their political power. Do they have political power or not, and how much? And then living on the edge of love and approval from their father. And here's the key. They desperately need Logan's love, right? But he is not capable of giving it. I don't think I saw any time in there where he really truly expressed love. I think he fits the full out narcissist thing. I just don't think he's really capable of having that relationship. Maybe there are some scenes I didn't notice on that, but we'll see. And then there's this other part on living on the edge. Are they making good decisions or bad decisions? And sometimes a good decision in the moment becomes a bad decision just minutes later. Sometimes they make a good decision and a bad decision in the same moment. They make two decisions, one good, one bad. And sometimes they make what they think is a good decision, and then they find it was really, really bad. The easiest one to point to right now is they called the election early and they may be wrong. What will that mean? Now let's go one other. And this one, if you're watching this series, may be driving you crazy. The rule of the wrong place at the wrong time, right? And this is so many different ways to do this. At any moment, any one of these characters can say or do the worst possible thing and essentially fall to their deaths. They're on the edge. All they got to do is say one more thing. And over, we've seen characters that have been tossed out. We've seen at the end of, what was it? Season 2, I think it was, at the end of season 2, Logan Roy put up his son for sacrifice so that he didn't have to go to prison. He was in the wrong place at the wrong time. But there's just so many other things. Almost anytime Greg or Tom open their mouth, they say something dysfunctional that shouldn't be said. The games between them are so disturbing. It's like, really. Roman is a shock jock. He is continually triggering others around him. He's pushing the edge of what's acceptable. He is constantly saying the wrong thing at the wrong time. Kendall, shows up more as kind of a weak victim who keeps making these emotional decisions that blow up in his face. And it's like, he killed the Matsson deal when Matsson was offering an incredible price for them and gave them everything they wanted. I don't know if that was a good decision or not, but in the moment, it looked like the only reason he did it was just to feel strong for a moment. And then Shiv the Shiv. She is a covert power player who's already made her deal, right, with Matsson, which may be her worst mistake ever. But over and over, every one of these characters has said something that was the worst thing they could say, made the worst decision they could make, did the wrong thing at the wrong time, and showed up in the wrong place. It's like, I'm going to guess there's lots of conversation about this in the writer's room. How can we create this again? Because what it does is it causes us to cringe, right? It causes us to worry. It causes us to go, oh my God, are they really going to do that again? So yeah. So this is, it's like they took these three kind of simple rules and took them to the nth degree and used them over and over and over. When you watch, if you haven't watched season 4 or if you haven't watched the entire show, just write these rules down and just watch it and see how many times these show up. You will be surprised. Now, I'm not saying you should use these rules, because then basically you are, using their writing and their style and that kind of thing. You could use these rules, but look at your show and ask, what are the rules that are unknown to the audience that you could be using that will cause the audience to have deep emotional experiences and worry and wondering what is really going on. Now, let's talk a little bit about this. Why are the writers so amazing? And because this speaks to your journey. I talk to these writers, not these particular writers, but I've talked to lots of writers who are doing TV series. I've interviewed a lot of showrunners, and I've interviewed a lot of showrunners in front of audiences. So anytime I'm interviewing a writer, an A-list writer, a TV series writer, or a showrunner, I ask them about, where they came from. How did they get there? What was the journey that they went on? And they will talk about when they were just learning. They'll talk about when they wrote a script they thought was perfect, and then they learned a whole bunch of other things, and they went back to it and found 30 ways to improve it, right? They'll talk about what they went through step by step to try to get there, and that kind of thing. But I just thought I would, just address a few things here. Part of the reason they're so amazing is because they learned high-level skills. They practiced those skills, and they discovered strategies that create great writing, right? There's a certain point, how when you're creating a character and it's just coming to you, right? And you see certain things about the character, and then you write a scene and you discover something more about that character, right? It's like that with your writing skills. Once you get to a really high level, you will learn those higher level skills, and in the midst of it, you'll start to discover things about your show you hadn't discovered before. But even more important, you will start to discover things about your writing and ways to use those skills in much, much higher level or higher level ways as you take steps, as you write the next episode, as you write the next series, right? So these people, when somebody tells me, oh, they were lucky, they were in the right place at the right time and all that kind of thing, you know what? They might have had a luck moment, but you know what it means. It's like luck is opportunity meets preparation. They were in the right moment, and they had the right level of writing skills. They were able to do things that most people can't do because of what they had learned along the way. So, what I want to ask you here is, what would happen if you became a great writer, right? What steps would you have to take to get there? If this is something that could be in your future, what steps would you take to be able to make that happen? And I'd say in general, when I look at most people that are making it as, like, let's say, semifinalist in contest, there's still about 100 skills that are between them and truly being a great writer. And what happened with these people was they found those, they learned them, and they mastered them. And you can do the same thing. You can learn these skills very quickly and write the very best project of your life so far. But I'll tell you, when we developed the program that I'm going to talk about in a minute, when we went through 2 years in our development process. I had people from the studio. We had somebody from the streamers. We had 2 writers who were in writing rooms at that moment as part of our development team. And we were searching nonstop as we analyzed over 50 different shows that were the ones that were at the very top of the streamer's success at that moment. It took us a lot. What I'm going to do is essentially give you all of that in 6 months, and you will learn these skills one at a time. With each skill, you'll immediately apply it to your project. And with each skill, you will get stronger and stronger and stronger as a writer. I was on Zoom yesterday with one of our writers who made a deal just before the writing strike. And so she can't write at the present moment, but that deal is still intact. The producer assured her that the moment this strike is over, they will get back together and go right back to work on it. So she's got a show that is going to be happening, and it's because she went through this program. She knows what she's doing. Everything he has ever asked her to write, she has blown him away with. She has surprised him at the quality. She has exceeded his expectations over and over and over. And she told me yesterday it was because of this program. So let me just kind of walk you through what it is. As we're doing this, it'll give you a chance to take a look at some of the skills that you may need. And if it's something that you would like to learn and master, then come join us. I'll do what I can to try to make it easy for you. So when you are writing these shows, the decisions are far more important than the words. The words you can write at any time. Especially if you're somebody who is great at wordsmithing, well, good. But it's the deeper decisions that affect everything. Everything I talked about today was the decisions. I didn't talk at all about the dialogue, what they were saying to each other. I didn't talk at all about the description. It's the decisions that make your show great. And a decision might be, say, a concept, right? What's the big concept? What's the high concept? That's a major hook. It might be you looking deeper and finding layers of subtext, intrigue, deeper layers that are going to surprise us, right? It might be the trust issues that these characters have, the conspiracies that basically are running their lives, and the reveals, by the way, which have everybody talking about them online. And it might be the multi-layered plots that you build, the characters that surprise us. But I'm telling you, in the first module of this program, you are going to create 50 important decisions. Those are 4 of them, right? And those key decisions are what is going to make your show great. It's going to give you something to write from that you will love that it has done that, because you'll never be looking for, oh my God, how do I make this interesting? You already have all those decisions made. Now it's just, how do you have it play out in the most interesting way? And you can easily do that. Most people have a tendency to get like 2 layers of their show, and then they write their pilot with that, not knowing that these professional pilots are written with 5 layers. So this makes a huge difference. Now, here's the class. Let me just walk you through it. I'll get out of the way there. It's a 5-month-long class. Every lesson, you're going to discover another key to making your show great. Each module that I'm going to give you, there's 5 modules. Each one has 10 to 15 lessons. And they start with module 1, where you're designing your show and making those key decisions that will sell it. We're actually talking about this from the beginning. When people wait to the end and then hope they can find a buyer, they haven't figured out all the things that could sell it, and they usually end up having to rewrite the whole thing or scrap it. You're going to look at those sell decisions at the very beginning. You will have those already built in. You will make the 50 most important decisions of your show during this module. So that means it's the equivalent of you coming in with a book that you have gone through the book, a 400 or 500 page book, and you have found everything that matters. You will do that during this program, and you will be thinking it out way in advance because we'll give you the prompts for doing that. We will help you figure out exactly what you need, and we'll show you plenty of examples for that. These are the decisions, again, that make your show great. And they're the decisions that will increase the chance that it can sell. So in the next module, module 2, so now we're in the second 30 days of the program. Here you're going to create your TV pitch Bible. And we did something different than everybody else. Everybody's, during the period of time when we were creating this, people were saying, well, take a look at the ones that are online. So we looked at about 25 of them, and they all were from before the streamers. And by the way, they were all different. It makes you confused out of your mind. What I found was there wasn't a single one of them that actually fit for today's world. So what we did instead was we went and talked to producers and funding sources. And what we were looking for was, what do the producers need in this TV Bible? And what do the funding sources need? So I actually interviewed a bunch of producers, and then I talked with one funding source that had I think 14 shows on the air at that moment. And what exactly did they need, and in what order? So by the time you're done with this, you will have a TV pitch Bible that goes right to what those funding sources needs, right? And it'll be designed to give exactly what, not only what you need, but what they need, what the producer needs, right? And we'll do one other thing, and this is incredibly important. Most of the TV Bibles that I see, they have some pretty pictures, and then they have words over here. And the words are what I would call exposition, right? They're just telling about the character or telling about the scene or telling about something else. We want you to write it as a page turner. I want it to be something where if a producer opened up to page 3 and randomly put his or her finger on the middle of the page and read that sentence, they would get engaged, right? If they read one page of your TV Bible, they're going to come back and say, wow. We had a writer who got her TV Bible to a producer. She was really good on the phone. She called and talked him into looking at her TV Bible. She sent it to him. He never looked at it. She called back a week later, then another week later, then finally she waited a month, and she called him a month later. He said, I just don't have time, and I just don't think this is for me. And she goes, I'll tell you what, I'll make a deal with you. If you will just read the first page of my TV Bible, I will leave you alone. And he said, you got a deal. So they hung up. He read the first page. He called her back. 10 minutes later, he had read every single word of her TV Bible. And he said, you are right. This show is incredible. He was hooked. And from that point, they went forward. They ended up actually making a deal, and it hasn't gotten funding yet, but that moved forward because he read one page and he couldn't stop reading. So this stuff is incredibly important. Then module 3, now we're talking about your brilliantly complex pilot outline. And here, let me tell you up front, if you think that you're not going to outline, then you're assuming you're not going to write any more of this project. If you want to get into a writer's room, you're going to be outlining constantly. If you want to get a manager, you are going to be outlining constantly. If you end up with a producer who buys your show and keeps you on as a writer, you'll still be outlining and sending those outlines to that producer. It's part of the TV process. So for anybody who doesn't outline, this is going to change your life, because we're not just saying, hey, you have to learn how to outline. Sorry. What this is really about is, how do you make that outline brilliant? How do you make it some of your favorite writing, right? And we're really, truly, I'm going to give you so many ways to do this. You will walk through it one step at a time, and every single step will make you stronger, right? You're going to build in depth. You're going to build in intrigue. You're going to build in the key needs that need to be there for somebody to say yes, right? And this really comes down to this. If you have a great outline, you'll end up with a great episode. When I was talking with showrunners, most of them said they outline 4 to 10 times as much as they write. They're trying to build in all those deeper layers that need to be there for your show to be great. Now then, Module 4, now you're going to write this mesmerizing TV pilot. And I want you to know up front, you are coming in with an outline that has 5 layers built into it. So there is more beneath the surface than on the surface. It'll be the best outline you've ever written in your lifetime. Now you're bringing that in, and you are going to write the pilot. Now, our objective is this. First, that it is intriguing from page 1, not a single dull page in your pilot. Second, that it is designed to launch the entire show, not just a season, but the entire show. Third, that it creates what I'm calling a binge-worthy experience, where people can't stop watching it from the very first episode. If you have to tell people, hey, watch 2 or 3 episodes and then you'll get hooked, that doesn't qualify in my books, and it doesn't get you into the industry. So that's important. And then fourth, it delivers on all 5 of those levels, which makes it much, much deeper than feature films. During this module, you're actually going to do 6 drafts. We're going to teach you the high-speed writing rules that will make you an incredible writer, and give you the ability to write so fast, which you're going to need that if you're going to be in a writer's room, or if you're going to work directly with a producer on your show. The faster you can write, the more they're going to see you as a pro. So that'll make a huge difference also. So now you've created the 50 most important decisions. You have gone through and created your TV Bible. Then you took that in and built your outline. You brought that here and you wrote an incredible pilot. And that brings us to marketing to producers and streaming services. When it's time, when you're ready, and this will be just about the perfect time, you're going to be standing there with this amazing project that is the best writing you've ever done in your lifetime and fits exactly what they need. That's a great time for you to be in front of producers and streaming services. And based on the timing that's happening in the world right now, just about the time you finish this class will be the time that things will open up again. So what do you do in this module? Well, first, you're going to create the 4 kinds of pitches you need. Most people go into a pitch, well, I'll tell you, at least half of the people, my experience has been, go into pitches winging it. And they think if they can just tell their story, it'll be fine. That doesn't work. That almost never works. You actually need to know the specific kinds of pitches that producers need, and you need to know the timeframes. If you walk in and they say, hey, I was going to give you 5 minutes, and let's say you've prepared your 5-minute pitch and you have it done, you're ready. And they say, but sorry, the president's only available for 1 minute. Once you've gone through this program, you will have a pitch that will give you a real chance. I've actually made deals in a 2-minute meeting. So it's possible. But you need to know how those pitches go, because they're very, very different than what you would do in a 5-minute pitch or a Zoom meeting or something like that. And your job is going to be to make those pitches incredibly compelling. And it's not telling your story. It's not giving as much information as you can. It's really, truly about hooking them and about causing them to go, oh my God, I've got to make that show, right? And then you will learn how to get your show indoors. How do you get somebody to take a look at it? And I'll tell you up front, there's 2 things to know. First, it's not easy. It's not one of these things where, like, a lot of people think, oh, I'm going to run into one person, they're going to listen to my pitch, and it's happened, right? It's something that you're going to kind of do consistently. You're going to build relationships over time. In fact, what we're going to teach you is how do you build a network of producers and managers that you can not only pitch this show to, but every show you write from now on. So, and this is absolutely possible. You just have to know what you're doing. You have to know what works. All the people that are on the inside right now already did this. And by the way, you don't have to be in LA to do it anymore. You can do it from anywhere in the world. This whole industry changed during the pandemic. And they are open to Zoom meetings, phone meetings, looking at stuff sometimes on social media. There are lots and lots and lots of ways to be able to get access. It's just you won't be able to get access to everyone all at once. It'll be a gradual process you'll do over time. So coming out of this program, you will probably pick who are the 10 or 15 or 20 producers that I want to go to. You'll build that network. You will start interacting with them. You will have the chance to actually be able to put things in front of them if you take our steps and you do the right things. But as you go, as you start presenting things, you'll get better and better and better at this. And over time, you will build a large network. We have writers right now who took this program 3 years ago and have over 250 producers and managers in their network right now that they can pitch. So this is something that you can do. It's just you want to make sure that you do it in the right way and that you know what you're doing. Now, the normal price on this is $12.99. I'm going to give you a special here. This is for the first 10 people that sign up. And let me tell you the dates first. It starts on June 12th. And what that does is give you just a little bit of time to brainstorm some ideas. What kind of show would you like to bring in? What do you already have ideas? That's something you want to bring in. Or do you want to brainstorm? And we'll give you some ways to brainstorm so that you, in fact, as soon as you sign up, we'll send you a pre-lesson on how to brainstorm ideas, the exact ways to create TV ideas, and you'll go through that brainstorming process. So you've got, like 15 days or so to do that. That's perfect. Or you could bring in something you've already written or that you've written part of, and then take it through this process. If you're going to do that, be willing to upgrade it. Be willing to improve it in a big way. Even if it's the best writing you've ever done, what I want you to do is I want you to come in saying, I'm going to double the quality of this, and then I'm going to double the quality again, because that's what will have you be successful. Now, again, the normal price is $12.99. Right now, for the first 10, you can get in for $649. That's going to save you, what, $650. So it's just about half price there. And so if this is something that you want to learn this, right? This is a 5-month-long class that will change your life as a writer. It will take you out of wherever you are right now and double or triple or quadruple the level at which you can write and the level at which you understand what producers, showrunners, and managers need from writers. So that makes a big difference. All you got to do is just go down there and click the link. that says bit.ly/BWTV-order. If that link isn't clickable, write it down, put it in your browser where you normally put a web address, click return, and then just go through the sign-up process. Once you've done that, you'll get that first pre-lesson that'll be on how to design concepts, and you will get started and begin moving forward immediately. When this program starts, you'll come into the program, and at that point, every day of this program, you will learn something new, you will become a stronger writer, and you will improve your chance of success. So that's what this whole thing is about. We spent 2 years designing this with an incredible development team. It may be the best program you've ever seen in your life when it comes to writing. So if that's what you'd like to do, come join us. By the way, if you need a payment plan, there's a second link down there that's bit.ly/BWTV-payment plan. And what that'll do is that'll give it to you for $120 a month. For 6 months, it totals $720. Now it's about $50 or $70 more, but that's because it's a payment plan. So whichever works best for you, just take that step, write down the link, plug it into your browser where you put a web address, and click return and join us. So I hope you got a lot out of this. I got to tell you, first, it's nice of you to stay this long with me, but I want you to know every time we do these, my hope is that it improves who you are as a writer, that it gives you something new and makes a difference. I hope that already happened for you today. And for those of you who decide to join us for this class, I promise you this is going to give you so much depth and so many strategies that you can use anytime you need them. So I hope you'll join us, and if you do, you'll be so glad you did. With that, this is Hal Crosman with Screenwriting U, wishing you the absolute best with your writing. Bye-bye, everyone.